and welcome to Matchday Live. It's Manchester City against Chelsea in the third round of the FA Cup. It does not get much bigger than this. And of course, it's the second time we're playing them in 3 days, of course, losing in the Premier League. So it's our turn to get a bit of revenge, hopefully, in this FA Cup game. Now, joining me in the studio for Matchday Live is Abby McCarthy and Dan Stewart. Abby, you know, we went out to Manchester City in the League Cup. We've not lost to them in the league. Surely it's third time lucky for us this time around.
I am really hoping so. We are going to be so keen to get that win today, aren't we? To just show them what we're made of. We don't want to lose again. I'm actually feeling really positive for that reason. Third time lucky, come on.
And this man, I think, is the most positive and optimistic Chelsea fan I know.
Someone's got to be.
That's very true.
Yeah, I think we are always hard done by when we play them. I think we give a good account of ourselves. We did it midweek. I thought that we were good in the first half, but we didn't get anything for the good performance. So I think today is the day where we progressed to the fourth round of the FA Cup.
I really, really hope you're right. Well, the team news is in from the Etihad Stadium, and there is some big news there because Bashir Humphries makes his full Chelsea debut starting at centre-back. That is the team. Kerr in goal, Lewis Hall starting at left-back, Koulibaly, Humphries and Trevor Chalobah at right-back, Jorginho, Kovacic, and we think Conor Gallagher in midfield three with Mason Mount, Kai Havertz and Hakim Ziyech a front three. Right, let's head straight over to the Etihad then and speak to Lee Parker, who is there for us. Lee, first of all, a huge, huge day for Bashir Humphries, starting at centre-back for Chelsea at just 19 years old.
It certainly is, and it speaks volumes about his ability and also of the youngsters coming through and the faith that Graham Potter has in said youngsters as well. He was involved in the Stores friendly with Brentford actually during the World Cup break and really impressed. He came on after Wesley Fofana sadly went off with that reoccurrence of an injury as well. So obviously done an awful lot in training at Cobham to impress the manager. And it's interesting you guys talking about the formation there. There's a certain fluidity in that midfield, isn't there? Like you rightly say, we're expecting Conor Gallagher to play quite high up, but he can drop deep as well. So there are options there, aren't there, Olivia?
Yeah, definitely. And it feels like, you know, Lewis Hall coming in again at left-back, who played really well, especially before the World Cup break in that defeat to Newcastle. He was Chelsea's best player. Impressed when he came on against Man City. But it's a nice blend of youth and experience in that lineup today, isn't it?
Yeah, really good point. Really good point. I mean, Jorginho comes back in to captain the side. He obviously didn't feature on Thursday. Cover and Gallagher as well in that midfield. Mason Mount, great to see him coming back as well. Isn't it crazy that we talk about Mason Mount as one of those experienced players, still so young, but he brings so much to the team. And looking at the bench as well, the options on the bench and a couple of potential debutants there in Benoit Badiashile and well, we've got some other youngsters in there. We've got Hutchinson, of course, came off the bench as well. That looks so impressive. Chuck Mecca, what an impact he made on Thursday. Great to see him again this afternoon here at the Etihad. It's going to be quite the occasion.
Yeah, absolutely. And Lee, just before we go, obviously the sad news about Gianluca Vialli passing away, and the Chelsea fans have been doing something special, and there's going to be something special at the Etihad, isn't there?
Yeah, absolutely right, Olivia. There will be. The fans are intending to applaud from the 9th minute. I mean, knowing how dearly loved Luca Vialli was, you can probably expect that applause to go from minute 1 to minute 90. But also here, the FA are planning a tribute as well. Just before kick-off, there will be a moment's applause. We'll have a picture of Luca Vialli on the LEDs and the big screen behind me as well. So that'll be a lovely touch.
Yeah, absolutely. And he will obviously be watching down on us today. And hopefully we can get the win for him, Lee, because we don't want to lose to Manchester City for a third time this season, do we?
Yeah, we could do without it, couldn't we? I mean, but this is an exciting team, and I echo Dan's positivity when the team sheets came out a few minutes ago. Looking through it, you're thinking, yeah, this is the team that's going to come out here and play without fear. There's so much youthful exuberance coupled with that experience that you rightly said, Olivia. So let's be positive. Sharp start. Who knows?
Absolutely, Lee. That is the key word. Let's be positive. Thank you very much. That's Lee Parker there at the Etihad for us. Lee has mentioned Benoit Badiashile. We weren't sure whether we maybe were going to see him today, Abby. He is starting on the bench, so we may see him come on and make an impact. What do you know of him as a player so far? Because I think he is relatively unknown, maybe a little bit.
I feel like when the big signing video went up, a lot of Chelsea fans were like, hang on a minute, who is this guy?
Yeah.
But within kind of footballing circles and football scouts, he's a really promising player. He's had over 100 appearances in Monaco, one of the top leagues there. Player of real pedigree, you know, played all different levels for France. Very versatile as well as a defender, which is great, obviously, in Potter's system. And kind of any modern manager, really. Players need to be really adaptable, don't they? So, very excited about him. Hope we get to see some minutes from him today.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, Dan, he's a quick, strong, he's pacey centre-back. And when you look at the players that we've got over the age of 30, even though you look at someone like Thiago Silva, who is still absolutely unbelievable. But it is maybe time that, you know, you start investing in players for the future, and he's one of them. Yeah,
definitely. I think he is the modern centre-back, you know. They're big, but they're slim, they're athletic, so he's very fast. I think he's got more experience than his years will suggest, because he's played at a high level. He won't be scared to come here and start. You know, he can learn from the best here in Thiago Silva. So, yeah, hopefully he has a bright Chelsea future ahead of him.
Yeah, and we can actually see some of his stats from last season, of course, playing for Monaco there. 24 appearances, 4 clean sheets, tackles per 90, 1.5, 2.8 clearances per 90. But look at those, duels won and aerial duels won, 65% and 77%. I know it's the FA Cup today, but he's coming into a league that is so much more physical than the French league. So having that physical ability and just that presence is important, isn't it, Abby?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like he's exactly the kind of player that we're after, a bit of physicality, and as you say, his age is great as well. Perfect addition to the team. Good bit of business happening behind the scenes. Yeah,
and it can play in a 2 and a 3, and I know we're seeing more under Graham Potter now, Dan, that we're playing more in a 4, but it's nice to know that we have players that we can, like you say, he's versatile. He can play in a 2, can play in a 3 as well.
I think it's the same for all players now. I think you've got to be able to adapt. A new manager may come in, or sorry, an injury, anything can result in a change of shape, and you have to be able to adapt pretty well. So being able to play in a 2 and a 3 is a positive. He's obviously got all the tools there to be a brilliant centre-back. So let's just hope that his development here is quick, because we might need him faster than we think.
Absolutely. Right, as always on Matchday Live, Elizabeth Helenek joins us now. Elizabeth, always great to have you on the show. We're, of course, talking about Chelsea's new signing, Benoit Badiashile. He's on the bench today. I've asked Abby and Dan what they know about him. What do you know about him so far, and what are you most excited to see from him in a blue shirt?
That's a really great question, and this might be a slightly strange answer, but I saw that he's 6'4", and I think that that's going to be extremely useful for Chelsea, because with Christensen, Rudiger, Marcus Alonso leaving, our backline is a little bit shorter now. So I think that he's going to be, like you mentioned, a real defensive presence, but also help on those set pieces as well, going forward and defending.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a really great point, actually, because we're not the tallest of teams, are we? So actually, having a 6'4" centre-back is actually quite nice. We can see what plenty of Chelsea fans have actually been saying on social media regarding the arrival. So Badiashile himself obviously tweeted, "New home, come on Chelsea." I'm sure he can't wait to, you know, play at Stamford Bridge as well, which is, of course, his new home. Another tweet, Benoit Badiashile signing is a good one in my books. 34 million for a 21-year-old centre-back, left-footed, which is what we need, very physical and had good height. They're all the things we've mentioned and all the things you want in a centre-back, aren't they? Good signing at a good price. Chelsea needed a defensive overhaul, and Badiashile is a very good option to have. I think it's nice when you're looking at these tweets, you know, another excellent signing. We're almost, for a lot of us that maybe don't watch French football, you're relying on those people that do. Looks serious, game face focused, doesn't he?
Yes.
But we are relying on that, and actually a lot of people that have watched French football, Abby, have said this is a very good signing. Obviously, he was out of contract next summer, or this summer, sorry, coming. So that's why we got him for a relatively cheap price. But it just seems all round like a pretty good deal, and one that Chelsea sort of needed. Yeah,
it's just a great bit of business, isn't it? You know, us as fans, we're always focused on the next game and the current squad, and then all of a sudden you see this new player, and once you actually do a bit of research and kind of a deep dive, especially into a player like Badiashile, someone that's just phenomenal, we're so lucky to have him. I can't wait to kind of see him develop at Chelsea.
And we're not going to see him today, but to learn off someone like Thiago Silva. I know I do feel like I say this a lot on this show whenever we talk about centre-backs. However, I'm yet to see Thiago Silva slowing down, and he's just getting older. But to be that young and to learn off one of the very, very best of his generation is better than literally anything, isn't it, really?
Yeah, I'm not even sure how you learn from Thiago Silva, because half of what he does is a sixth sense. So you almost have to just spend enough time with him to pick up his sixth sense, and all of a sudden you'll be in the right place at the right time all the time. But physically, Badiashile looks like quite a specimen. I saw him in the lift the other day when Chelsea played City last time, and he is a big unit.
Is he towering over you, Dan? Are you intimidated?
He's bigger than me. Yeah, he's bigger than me. And yeah, I think Chelsea were a club that, you know, from set pieces, teams used to be quite scared of us. We had Ivanovic, we had a few big boys, and you know, the centre-halves will come up and we'd get a lot of goals from set pieces. So I think if we can kind of implement that back and create a little bit of a bit more fear, you know, because we are quite a short side at the moment. Yeah, it can only be good.
Yeah, and Elizabeth, like Dan says there, from set pieces in both boxes, he's going to be important, isn't he? And if he can have an impact in both boxes, then that's something that, you know, we had maybe with Rudiger, like you said, a little bit, who was threatening from John Terry's the obvious one going all the way back, that was brilliant in both boxes. But to have a player that can be that impactful in both boxes is also big, isn't it?
Definitely, and we saw at the beginning of the season that Chelsea had been conceding quite a few goals from set pieces, and so I think just having that added height is really going to provide some assurance, and just to be more physical in the box, and also not only to just win the first ball but to win the second ball as well. I think that that's something that we can look to improve on, and that's going to be super important with his presence. I think that we're going to be able to improve on that, and hopefully we can see him score some goals as well. Maybe he'll become one of our top scoring defenders, who knows.
That would be lovely, because we do need goals right now, don't we?
Yes, we do.
Right, it's time to hear from the man himself then, Benoît Badiashile, talking after signing for Chelsea.
C'est un plaisir d'être à Chelsea, parce que voilà, c'est un très très grand club. Je suis ce club depuis longtemps et je sais l'histoire que ce club a, donc c'est un réel plaisir de représenter ce club-là. Voilà, Chelsea c'est un grand club avec des grands joueurs. Je pense à John Terry, Frank Lampard, Didier Drogba, c'est des joueurs que j'avais l'habitude de regarder quand j'étais petit. Donc c'est vraiment un réel plaisir de représenter un club qui a pu avoir dans ses rangs de tels joueurs. Thank you, Benoît.
How are you, bro? You okay?
Yeah, good.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you.
You good?
Good. Yeah, good.
Welcome, bro.
Thank you. Good, yes.
Ça va?
Yeah, ça va. Donc voilà, je connais très bien Wesley. C'est un joueur avec qui j'ai l'habitude de jouer en sélection, donc je suis vraiment content de pouvoir le rejoindre. Voilà, ensuite, il y a énormément de grands joueurs dans ce vestiaire, comme Thiago Silva, une légende sur qui je prends énormément exemple. Et voilà, je suis très content également de pouvoir apprendre à ses côtés. Voilà, N'Golo Kanté, on sait tout ce qu'il a apporté pour ce club. Et puis voilà, je vais essayer de ramener ma sérénité, ma joie de vivre, mon calme. Et puis voilà, rapporter toutes les qualités que j'ai à l'équipe et pourquoi pas gagner des trophées avec ce magnifique club. Alors sur le terrain, je suis quelqu'un de très calme avec le ballon. J'aime progresser avec la balle, essayer de casser des lignes. Et j'aime quand mon équipe a le ballon. Et voilà, je suis quelqu'un de très serein sur le terrain. Alors le coach, c'est quelqu'un qui aime bien avoir le ballon, qui aime bien que son équipe joue au ballon. Donc je pense que c'est une philosophie qui me correspond. Et j'ai très hâte de travailler avec lui, tout simplement. Thanks for watching and see you soon.
So a couple of days ago, we heard the really sad news that Gianluca Vialli sadly passed away. Now, we were so lucky. He was a player at our club, he was a manager at our club, and he, of course, won so many trophies as well. It was such sad news, Dan. What are your memories, first of all, of Gianluca Vialli?
Actually, my first ever Chelsea memory was of Gianluca Vialli. We were 2-0 down against Liverpool, I think, in a cup match. Half-time, somehow we turned it all around. Vialli scored. We won the game 4-2, but that was the day I actually remember really falling in love with the club. He was just a hero. He was, you know, a player, a manager, and a player manager. You know, like, you know what it's like, you know, managers lose in dressing rooms, but I don't think you can lose it when you are in the dressing room. You're part of the dressing room. He led the line so well. His stats were ridiculous. And I think he was kind of the beginning of our journey into, like, a club that has a winning culture. And, you know, really turned us into a bit of a European name as well. We started to win, you know, European Cups when we were with him. So, yeah, like, it's like horrible news for everyone at the club. But he was actually my first ever Chelsea hero.
Oh, it's lovely. And Abby, you're similar to me, sort of Gianluca Vialli when he played and managed at Chelsea. It was slightly before we were quite young when he did that. But as Dan said, from what I've heard especially, he was one of the loveliest men in football. He was a kind heart. And I think that sort of almost, you overlook how good of a footballer he was because he was just so lovely, both on and off the pitch.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, isn't it? The fun and the flair and the excitement that he brought to the football pitch. Always an amazing player. The relationship he had with Zola. Zola's one of my favourite Chelsea players, as I always say. So I remember them two playing together, even though I was very young. But as you say, what an amazing man off the pitch as well. A true gentleman. All the tributes that have poured in over the last few days, all of them are absolutely incredible. And lots of kind gestures are done behind the scenes. Some things that we're only just learning about now as, you know, fans of him. Just an incredible man. And, you know, everyone here at Chelsea Football Club, I don't think we've got enough words really to kind of say what a legend he is to this club.
Yeah, I mean, I've read so many articles over the last couple of days, and there were so many people saying you will never hear anyone say a bad word about Gianluca Vialli. And he was obviously an incredible man, and we were very, very lucky to have him play for our club. And you can see here, of course, this is the tribute we have at Stamford Bridge for Gianluca Vialli, where fans have come and they've laid flowers. It says, Grazie, Gianluca Vialli. You can see there a really special but an emotional day, I think, today. Obviously, Chelsea's first game since he passed away. But you can see there what an incredibly special man, and just a really sad day. But not just for Chelsea fans, Dan, but for the whole of football, it seems.
Yeah, definitely. I don't think I've ever heard anybody say a bad word about Gianluca. He just seems to be, you know, every now and then, football gives us, you know, the guys that are just genuinely good people. Everyone seemed heartbroken when he passed, and it goes to show, you know, like he's got a tribute. There's not enough you can really say, you know. It's never nice when anyone passes away, but this one seems to have hit harder than maybe a lot of people would have expected. He's a huge part of the club, huge part, you know. It's like synonymous with Chelsea and with football, and, you know, he was part of the golden Italian era as well, so a very special place in football.
Absolutely. I love this story. I heard it yesterday that he obviously wanted to come to England. He wanted to conquer England, and he soon became, you know, the Chelsea fans' ultimate favourite. But he learned this saying, and it was "Good morning, chaps." And he would walk into the training ground and walk to whoever he spoke to, and it said, you know, whoever, no matter who you were, a player, part of the staff, anyone, he would be so invested in what was going on in your life. And that says a lot about him, doesn't it, Abby?
Oh, that's so amazing.
It's so sweet. Good morning, chaps. Can you imagine it? It's an Italian accent, walking around going, good morning, chaps, just with a huge smile on his face.
A grin on your face, wouldn't it, for sure? And I thought it was amazing seeing, you know, so much of our current squad as well, obviously playing their respect to him, and saying that he'd been to a game recently. I think it was Mason that said, oh, I saw you, you know, just recently, and you were cheering us on. Every single thing you hear about this man is just so positive. What a legacy. He's completely changed our football club. As Dan mentioned earlier, you know, he really made us a title-winning team. You know, his influence is going to go on for years and years and years. But, yeah, very sad day.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's been so many incredible tributes and just an outpouring of love as we, at Chelsea, remember the late, great Gianluca Vialli.
The relationship with the supporters, it was from day one, was very special. change some things there. Played with 3 up front. Mark Hughes on. Look up there. And that changed the whole game.
On the pitch, it was something there was electricity on the air. It was something particularly special.
Well, wherever we go, Trivago is with us. And now they bring us to the Etihad Stadium to follow the warm-up of the Blues for our match against Manchester City. Well, we would normally be calling this section of the show 3 points for 3 points, but there are no points on offer today, so let's call it 3 points for a place in the 4th round instead. Jason Cundy's alongside me. We're going to start, Jason, with a familiar one. We have to start converting chances when on top. This was the tail of the game on Thursday night in a lot of ways, wasn't it? Chelsea could have had a couple of goals in the first half before City really woke up. If a similar situation happens today, need to be a bit more ruthless in front of goal.
Indeed, yes. Good afternoon, Matt. Good afternoon, everyone. It's been a long story, this one, for us. This has been a scenario that we talk about not just under Tuchel, not just under Potter, but under Frank. I seem to remember a lot of chances under Frank. We dominate games. But when you get in these areas, especially against sides like Manchester City, who generally do not allow, like this is desperately unlucky. Chukwuemeka doesn't do a great deal wrong there. Stones is alert. We need to follow things up. So that could well be another story to it. You know, once those chances come, can we follow up? Why is it always? It feels at times that defenders are taking advantage, but this is desperately unlucky. Lewis Hall, he would have maybe had the Etihad on his mind back in the Carabao Cup where he had a great chance and he skies it. Maybe, you know, I don't think that really we should be looking at that particularly because, you know, he's a young boy coming on at left back, but there are chances and opportune moments, because even though there are chances, there are moments in games you think if that pass was better, that cross, the selection of cross, and we get more bodies in the box. Again, take advantage of moments in games when they appear. And I think at times, and I've done the commentary with Ben on Thursday, there were times where we needed the goal, and I'm looking up and saying, we need more bodies in the box. You know, we need to gamble, we need to be a little bit more ambitious. And that really put the ties right into that question.
There's Bashir Humphries. He's making his debut for Chelsea today. He won't be tasked with goal scoring at all. But I mean, you look around the team today, and Havertz, well, he's the top scorer out there with 5. But I'm looking at somebody like Conor Gallagher, who got a goal here for Palace last season when they won, and thinking people like him and Mount, and you'd maybe even stretch that to Kovacic and particularly Ziyech. They're the kind of people you want chipping in. Ziyech obviously got a good record against City for Chelsea.
Yeah, and that's right. And you know, spreading goals around, and felt like the early part of the season that was what we were kind of doing. We were spreading the goals around. We don't have really a recognised number 1, number 9. You know, clearly the Aubameyang signing right now, and you know, he's found himself on the bench again, which he'll be disappointed to see. In fact, he's not on the bench today, is he? I've just seen that. So therefore, we don't have the luxury of Aubameyang even coming off the bench. So we don't. And this goes back to the strength and depth in the squad. We're in the transfer market right now. We're being linked with a number of centre forwards, or certainly one in particular, the boy from Shakhtar Donetsk, and we need a striker to lead that line. And clearly, Brozier, if he hadn't picked up the injury that you and I covered, Matt, against Aston Villa just before Christmas, just after the World Cup, you would have thought this is the game he's definitely going to start. And I tell you, whenever I've seen him play, I'm encouraged by what I see. Now, of course, with the injuries, and don't really want to harp on about those, but clearly they have an effect on games like this.
Well, Fofana is on the bench, so there is a striking option there. Be interesting to see whether he gets any minutes or not. If you're late joining us, by the way, you'll see the number 9s on the back of the Chelsea players as they warm up. That is a tribute to Gianluca Vialli. There'll be more of that before kick-off as well. Let's move on to point 2, though. Treat the FA Cup as a real opportunity for success this season. That was something that Vialli did, of course, when he was manager of Chelsea. It's also something that Mikel Arteta did pretty effectively a few years ago when they beat Chelsea in the final, and you wonder whether he'd still be in situ if they hadn't won that trophy at that time, because he still hasn't got them in the Champions League yet. But this is Chelsea's best opportunity, obviously, of silverware this season, still in the Champions League as well, but we know what cup runs have done for Chelsea in previous seasons, and we know that, you know, there will be teams, one of these two are going to go out. There will be teams from the Premier League. Newcastle exited yesterday. If you get a kind draw all of a sudden, a competition like this can open up for you, and I'm sure that's in Graham Potter's mind.
Absolutely, there's no doubt about it. And you know, we're out the Carabao Cup. We're not going to win the league. The Champions League is going to be incredibly difficult. I think success this season would still be getting a top 4 place. I think that would be, even though Arsene Wenger got pillared for saying Champions League spot is a trophy. In some ways, it's a financial trophy. In some ways, I think he's right. But in terms of silverware, this is our only chance, really, or our best chance, certainly with what we've got coming up in the Champions League. I think we can get past Dortmund, but of course, there's going to be bigger heads that lie in wait. But you're absolutely right. And going into games like this, I've seen a lot of games this weekend where the much-fancied side goes out. I looked at Newcastle yesterday, get knocked out by Sheffield Wednesday. You know, you can argue similarly now. The problem that we're going to come up against, we're coming up against an incredibly good side with an incredibly brilliant squad, and we saw that at the weekend. Sorry, the Thursday night when they brought off on 160 million pounds worth of talent, and that actually ultimately finished the game for them. Grealish onto Mahrez, which sent the 3 points heading north. But there's no reason why we can't get something out of this game, Matt. Honestly, there's not. In the Carabao Cup, I thought we were good value. I know we went down in the end and it was 2-0, and maybe you could argue that the first goal is always so crucial, especially when City get it. But there's no doubt in my mind, we can actually put in a performance here. There are players in there, Lewis Hall, that we're looking at right now. Whenever I've seen him play, I've always come away thinking, what a good player he's going to be. You know, and what another wonderful opportunity for him and one or two others that have been introduced into this team.
The draw, by the way, for round 4 is scheduled to take place any second now. So as soon as we get word of who Chelsea have got, we'll let you know. But that will obviously be another motivating factor in terms of progression in the Cup if you get somebody at home who you might expect to beat. Let's go on to our final point then, point 3. React better to City's substitutions. They changed the momentum of the game on Thursday. I mean, it was quite the flex, wasn't it, from Pep to bring on an 18-year-old fullback, stick him in midfield and watch him change the game. But just looking at their bench today, I mean, goodness me, you talk about game changers. Cancelo, Gundogan, Haaland, De Bruyne and Lewis amongst the substitutes. If they mix it up as they will, Chelsea have got to try and deal with that. But that's much easier said than done, isn't it? If you're going to bring on Erling Haaland and Kevin De Bruyne, how do you deal with that?
Yeah, I mean, you can definitely make a case to say that the substitutions made a difference, but I think also Pep's team talk would also, you know, he would have been very disappointed in what he had seen. And I said to Ben, and just before half-time, saying that they're going to make either a formation or personnel change. It was the latter in the end. But of course, when you're Man City and you underperform like that, you look across the bench, there are going to be other players that are going to come on. And in the end, as it turned out, that was the difference between the two sides, not just the substitutions that came on at half-time. We expected City to be better. We expected City to come out and react to what the manager would have said. I actually think Potter would have been very happy with what he saw in the first half. I thought we were good. But of course, then you got Man City coming off, not just changing that, but the substitutions they subsequently made, and as we've already made that point, that went on to go and take the 3 points off us. But reacting, it isn't just necessarily us reacting by making subs or reacting. It's about being aware, what have they done differently? What can they offer now, the second half, that they didn't do first? And as you said, to bring on a young boy, not necessarily that was it. I felt that we could have been a little bit more proactive in the players that we had. Maybe a little bit higher up the pitch, not a huge amount, 10 yards maybe. I felt we allowed them to dictate play as they didn't do in that first half. But yeah, look, if the substitutions are made at half-time, you just outright their bench, or they make subs there, we know they're bringing on better quality off the bench than they've got on the pitch. That's not necessarily the case for us.
It's up to Graham Potter as well, isn't it, in terms of maybe having to change the tactics of the game depending on who's coming on as well, and that's something he'll obviously be well prepared for.
Indeed, and you know, you must always react to what's going on, and this is where, you know, you see managers, certainly at latter stages of games, if someone is bringing on a big front man, you know, we want to lump it and we're trying to get ourselves back at the game, you will more often than not perhaps see a manager say, do you know what, let's go 3 at the back, bring another centre-half on, that we can deal with the heavy artillery that's going to be inevitably laid up top. But the benches now have become so important in high-level football, because you've got those 5 subs. You can change so much of the way that the game is played. As I said, either personnel, formation, and the deeper the squad, the better chance you have. That no one's going to have any sympathy for Chelsea, nor do I want it. But there's no question, the injuries that we have right now, that bench, it filters down. The bench is going to be thinner. The starting 11, he's got to be thinking as well, Potter, about Thursday. We've got Fulham Thursday, you know, so there's all these things that's in the pot.
What about the Chelsea bench? Is there a real mix, isn't there, of youth and experience? You've got Thiago Silva and Cesar Azpilicueta at one end of the ledger, and then potential debutants in Badiashile and Fofana. I guess we're more likely to see Fofana today. You wouldn't necessarily want to be bringing on a centre-half for his debut against that man, for example. No,
and I think what Potter will be doing, and what most managers do when it comes to the third round, they will be looking at what's more important. Newcastle's side yesterday, to go back to that point, they've got a Carabao Cup quarter-final coming up, and he will see that potentially as a bigger game because they're closer to Wembley and closer to a trophy, so he picked his team accordingly to that. Potter will be looking at Thursday night, and he'll work backwards. So what team do I want to put out? I don't know how many other players are going to come back from injury, but I'll be surprised if any of those play. So Mason, for me, will start against Fulham, and you go through the bench. You can't help but think Aspie's going to start. Zakaria, who's been excellent, will start. Thiago Silva will start. So there's 3 straight away that you would have thought that are going to go in. Chukwuemeka, I'm surprised that he doesn't get a start today, actually. Maybe that gives you an indication of what Potter's thinking about Thursday.
And where does this lie in terms of City's priorities, do you think? Because that's something that Chelsea could, maybe hope to exploit, that this is the 3rd or 4th priority for them this season. You mentioned about Newcastle. Well, City have got the League Cup quarter-final coming up as well. Is that even really a thing when you've got a squad this good and a team who've just beaten you a few days earlier? As priorities even an issue? You know, you look through their starting 11 and it's just world-class players from 1 to 11.
Yeah, at Manchester City, where we were maybe 10, 12, 13 years ago, where we had a squad of players, maybe a bit longer, 15 years, when Jose was in around his first time here, where we had a squad of players that we were expected to win pretty much every game. And we, of course, won the Carabao Cup under Jose, we won the FA Cup, we've done it under various different managers as well. Manchester City are very similar. They are where they are right now, the money they've spent, the manager they've got, the squad they've got. They are expected to win today, and they're expected to win at midweek. They're expected to go win, so they're expected to pick up both cups, expect to win the title, and they're expected to go very, very deep in the Champions League. That's where they are. So in terms of their priorities, I think Pep, yes, of course, he'll prioritise certain ones. He has to, because you can't keep playing. Haaland's on the bench, perfect example. But he'll put this side. They've got Alvarez, by the way. So
just the 4 goals at the World Cup winners' medal.
So, you know, you're talking about the replacement that they've got. The vast majority of other squads in and around Europe, not just in this country, just don't have the luxury of.
Well, something's got to give today. City haven't lost in the 3rd round since 2012. Chelsea haven't lost at this stage in 97-98. But City have had some whiffy results here of late, beaten by Brentford, held by Everton last weekend. So there is definitely possibilities for Chelsea here to continue this incredible record in the 3rd round of the FA Cup. Kick-off around 20 minutes away now at the Etihad Stadium.
Just under 20 minutes to go at the Etihad, Manchester City against Chelsea in the 3rd round of the FA Cup. But right now on Matchday Live, it is time for Shoot, Pass, Clear.
OK.
Are you ready? You look confused, Abby.
I am. Please explain.
I will explain. So I'm going to give you 3 scenarios, and you have to decide which is the most likely through to the least likely. So shoot is the most likely. You can pass, which is like 50%, maybe in the middle, and then of course clear is the least likely. So Elizabeth, we're going to get you involved as well. So the 3 scenarios today are. So the first one, a Chelsea Academy graduate to score. Ooh. Chelsea under 5 shots on target, and Chelsea over 50% possession. So you've got to shoot 1, pass 1, and you have to clear 1. So we'll start off with shoot, the most likely. Out of those 3, Abby, which do you think is the most likely?
I'm going to say a Chelsea Academy graduate to score. Honestly, I've got a really good feeling that Lewis Hall was going to score today. He's had a couple of good chances recently and a couple of good shots, particularly against City.
Just composure, wasn't it? Just at the last second. So maybe, because it happened against Newcastle, didn't it?
Yeah.
But maybe this time he'll have that.
And if it's not him, then we have plenty other academy graduates.
We're sort of, because this academy graduate, we've got
Mason
Trevor
Mount.
Chalobah, we've got Mason Mount, we've got Conor Gallagher. There's quite a few names. Dan, which would you say is the most likely then?
I'd probably agree with Abby there. I think, academy graduate to score. I feel like we have to get a goal today, and I feel like we've got maybe a 40% chance of it being an academy. I'm just going with the numbers.
The numbers, with the players that are on the pitch. Elizabeth, would you agree?
Yeah, I would agree as well. I think that there's a decent amount of academy graduates on the pitch. Some of them have the really good shooting boots, so to speak. So I hope that happens, and I think that out of the three, that's the most likely.
OK, perfect. So you're all shooting on a Chelsea Academy graduate to score. I like the positivity. I like the optimism. So you have now to pass and clear. So the next one, or you've got two left, under 5 shots on target, or Chelsea having over 50% possession. I think I know which one the clear will be.
We'll go clear on the possession. It's just not going to happen, is it? Against a team like Manchester City, who love to keep the ball and keep it moving. So that means what we're left with.
So the 50% one is under 5 shots on target.
Okay, yeah,
that's about right.
That has happened a lot.
All agree.
So, yeah.
Elizabeth, you agree with that as well?
Yeah, I agree.
Full house, full house. Right, perfect. So next up, you know what it is on Matchday Live?
Trivia.
So we actually, just quickly, it's Oxford or Arsenal, is that at home? If Chelsea get through to the 4th round of the FA Cup, it is Oxford or Arsenal. Oh, God, that's it. I know. I feel like we usually, in the FA Cup, we usually have an OK run. We have a lot of, maybe a couple of easy home fixtures, but to go Manchester City away and then potentially Arsenal at home, that's quite tough, isn't it?
It's really tough. I'm getting a bit stressed just thinking about it.
Right, we need to focus on this game first and get through Manchester City first. Right, are we all ready for a bit of trivia? We've been feeling really optimistic, so are we optimistic we can get this right?
Yes, 100%.
Let's have a look, shall we, at the trivia. Who were the last side to beat us in an FA Cup tie, not including finals? So last season it was obviously Liverpool, wasn't it? So
was it Liverpool?
We lost in the final, to Liverpool.
And the season before that, we lost in the final to
Leicester. So it's the season before that. So it's this.
No, we lost 3 finals in a row.
Yes, Elizabeth, we did lose 3 finals in a row.
Arsenal, Leicester, Liverpool?
Yeah, Arsenal, Leicester, Liverpool.
We've gone on a
pre-Arsenal. So it was pre-Frank Lampard. Because that was Frank Lampard's first season when we lost to Arsenal, wasn't it?
Yes.
So it's pre-Lampard.
We need to win one of these finals
before
we even get this.
Oh, was it Frank Lampard's second? It was Frank Lampard's second season. So it was who we lost to it under Frank Lampard in his first season. My memory is so bad and does not go back that far. So I'm relying on you three to. Dan, your face is not giving me like confidence right now.
I think I'm gonna play the percentages anyway. I know we don't have to give the answer yet.
No, half time.
But I think it's one of 2 teams.
Okay, narrowed it down. Oh, Abby, that like sparked something.
Yeah, I think I actually know who it is.
Oh,
see the confidence?
Well, this is positive.
Trivia, got it down.
Trivia, we have got it down.
I won't say yet because we're so confident.
Right, there's 15 minutes to go until kick-off. Dan, when we look back at the game against Man City, it was literally 3 days ago, there was some positives to take in that first half performance especially, and we really need to take that into today, don't we?
Yeah, and I think there were some positives even from the second half. You know, we were pressing them at the end. I think we just maybe switched off and allowed them to grow into the game at the beginning of the second half. But I think, for the most part, when we were moving the ball quickly between the lines, I thought Zakaria had a very good game. But as soon as we beat that first initial press, we were able to get at them. The problem was when we were gifting them the ball back, you know, as soon as they pressed us for that maybe first 10 minutes of the second half. So we can learn from that. I think, you know, sometimes playing nice, you know, intricate football is good, but sometimes you might need to release some pressure and just and go long. Graham Potter, I'm sure, would have had a look at how they're going to play, but it's probably going to be quite a different game. It's 2 completely different teams, essentially. Same philosophy. So you'd expect, you know, the Pep team to still want to keep the ball. But I think there were a lot of positives that we could take from that. but we must score. I think we have to shoot more and we must score. You know, it's impossible to beat any team without scoring.
Yeah, I was going to say that was the one thing. It was almost like the final ball, the final moment just let us down against City. But like Dan says, if you don't score goals, you don't win games. And we don't, with the amount of games that we've got, we don't really want a replay, do we? If we could get it out of the way and beat Manchester City today. You think it could be like maybe a 1-0 pretty close game?
Yeah, I think it will be very important who gets the first goal. And
we were saying Chelsea, sometimes we react really well to going behind and sometimes we just don't really have any ideas, do we?
Yeah, I think because we don't create many chances, as soon as we're then 1-0 down, it just feels like there's so much more of a battle to kind of face. But I do back us today. I just hope that we do take our chances. Because we had some in that City game, it's just the quality wasn't quite there in the final third. But yeah, I'm feeling positive for today.
Yeah, and Dan mentioned Zakaria and even Carney, Chukwuemeka. Are you surprised that both of them are not starting today, Elizabeth, given the performances they put in against City a couple of days ago? Or do you think Graham Potter has maybe got one eye on Fulham in the Premier League?
Yeah, it's an interesting point because when I saw the starting lineup, I thought that for sure that they were going to start because, in my opinion, they were two of the best players in the game against City in the Premier League. But I think that there's a lot of fixtures and they did play a lot of minutes as well in that game. So Graham Potter's probably also thinking about, okay, I have to put out a team today. I have to put out a team versus Fulham and just trying to manage the squad, especially with the amount of injuries that we have. We really cannot afford to lose anybody else. So I do think that perhaps we'll see them come on for maybe 20, 30 minutes or so. But I would expect them to start versus Fulham.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Elizabeth won't be with us at half-time because she is going to watch Atletico Madrid versus Barcelona, which I'm very, very excited about. Elizabeth, before we let you go to go and enjoy that game, give us a score prediction. What do you think it's going to be today?
I'm going to go for 2-1 to Chelsea. What are you guys thinking?
Abby?
I'm going to go 1-0 Chelsea.
And Dan?
I'm going to go 1-0 as well.
We got a full house of Chelsea wins, right? The first half is coming up very soon, and commentary from Jason Cundy and Matt Davies-Adams will be coming up as well.
It is now time to line up the teams for this afternoon's FA Cup third round tie. Starting with our visitors, Chelsea. The starting 11 for Chelsea. Goal for Peter Osgood. 5, Hakim Ziyech. 8, Christian Pulisic. 14, Trevor Chalobah. 19, Mason Mount. 22, Hakim Ziyech. 23, Conor Gallagher. 26, Havertz. 29, Kai Havertz. 42, Matchday Havertz. And 67, and now it's time to line up the team for our boys in blue, Manchester City. In goal, number 18, Number 14, Lampard. Number 21, Sergio Gomez. Number 20, Bernardo Silva. Number 16 is Rodri. Number